It's time to talk some hoops. It's Basketball Jones, giving you behind-the-scenes, in-depth looks each week at a special guest from the basketball world. We know you're ready for basketball to be back, but no one's jonesing for it like your host, Mark Jones.
And welcome, everybody, to the Basketball Jones. I'm your host, Mark Jones. This broadcast brought to you by HallPass Media. You can find us at hallpassmedia.com. Our special guest this week is four-time NCAA champion and WNBA Finals MVP, WNBA Finals champ, Breanna Stewart. Stewie, thanks a lot for joining us.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and before we get started, quick shout out to all of the frontline workers, all of the people working to help fight this pandemic, this COVID-19 world that we're living in, all of our emergency room workers, our doctors, and of course, those furiously looking to find a vaccine and a cure. And also, we want to give a shout out to people like George Floyd's family, Breonna Taylor's family, Rayshard Brooks's family. Let everybody knows that Black lives do matter and that the arc of justice, in the words of Martin Luther King, is a long arc, but it bends, we pray, towards the truth. Breanna, what a whirlwind these last few months have been with the goings-on in the world, and you're coming back to basketball. We're glad to have you. Tell us, with you, first of all, being such a wonderful ambassador for women's basketball and the WNBA, what are your initial thoughts on play resuming in the WNBA in a little over a month now, a little less than a month?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not what I thought was going to happen. You know, when I would look back probably 6 months ago, I don't think anybody's in a position that they thought they were going to kind of be in June of 2020. But excited for the possibility to kind of be back, you know, coming off of an injury and only playing a couple games, and then coming home from overseas because the seasons were all canceled or postponed. It's been tough, but I think this bubble atmosphere is going to be different, and I don't think there's anything that is really able to kind of be compared to it, but also gives us an opportunity to kind of be together as a league, and also you know, have solidarity with the racism and the social injustice going on in our country.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's really no roadmap for this. I mean, you came up through the youth basketball system. You played in AAU tournaments all over. I would imagine that it's going to have a communal type of AAU basketball tournament feel. But do you have any apprehensions at all, or what kind of safeguards or anything like that might you be thinking about or taking it all going into the situation down there at IMG Academy down in Bradenton, Florida?
I mean, I think the feel that kind of most of the players have talked about is like, it's almost like we're going overseas, you know, having that vibe where you're packing for an overseas season because you're not able to leave where you really are as much. And then also making sure that we have the safety and all of the right things, because obviously the coronavirus is still there, and just understanding the precautions that we're going to be under and being able to play safely.
Okay, now having said that, you're going to be gone for a couple of months, right? Mm-hmm. If all things go according to schedule and Seattle perhaps gets to the finals, wins its fourth WNBA championship. The important question for me is, who watches your dog? Can we see Puppy and tell us his name again? And
his name is Stu.
Is he out?
He's laying down. He doesn't want to come here. Maybe he'll come here a little later.
Okay.
My mom will watch him. He doesn't know what's coming. He'll see soon when I pull the bags out, and then his mood changes. I'm sure, as most people who have dogs, they realize that they know. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely developed an attachment these past few months. You know, just being inside together, and it's a little sad.
Yeah, dogs are living their best life right now. I have a 6-year-old Doberman. He is. Me and him are tied at the hip right now. So animals are going to take a little bit of a hit in pets. But I want to ask you about your role in the Black Lives Matter movement, especially locally there in Seattle, which is in a way at the forefront of what's happening for a lot of good reasons. I know that Will Conroy, Jamal Crawford, yourselves, a couple of other Seattle area prominent basketball names have had a chance to get together. And what was the genesis of that? Take us through that, and what was the end result in that Seattle community?
Yeah, so it actually, it was about 2 weeks ago, and it was something that just happened, like really spur of the moment. Will actually reached out to Sue, and Sue at the time was not in town. And Sue kind of was like, gave Will my information and just could kind of see if I was available. And it was just an opportunity for the Seattle people, the Seattle names, stars, basketball family to really come together and also speak to the community. It was down in Renton, Seattle, and it was at a park, and it was a small setting, nothing was on social media, but an opportunity to kind of talk about what is happening in our world and how we're going to be able to continue to fight to make it better. And I went with my teammate, Jewel Lloyd, and it was just something that we had to be at, we had to go to, and nobody's in this fight alone. And from all communities, we need to kind of stand together.
And you being an athlete, a lot of times you find yourselves at the forefront of, for lack of a better term, maybe racial profiling by law enforcement at times. I was reading one of your stories about you and a couple of UConn teammates driving down a highway one time, and maybe you can take us through that experience and your firsthand knowledge of how that racial profiling happens and what it felt like to actually be a part of that scenario.
Yeah. So what the story actually was is it was me. I was with an ex-boyfriend. He was driving, and one of his teammates were in the back. The two were Black, and we were driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and we got pulled over. And it was kind of like, those situations where it's like, well, what do we do? And we got pulled over. The cop came on the passenger side and was just kind of asked for their IDs. And I pulled out my ID too. And he was like, no, I don't need it. And then he was like, is everything okay? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what's not okay? And it was just something where it's like, we were like, well, what did we do? And he was like, you followed a car too closely. And, like that just kind of puts it into perspective. And also like in my mind, if I was with two white guys, would we have that same kind of reaction from the cop? And would we be pulled over for following a car too closely? I'm like, anybody who goes on the highway, it's kind of like, well, everybody's close.
Right.
Like, there's no other option but to not be close. But it's just, the way that Black community is perceived, and it's wrong. And I think it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're in 2020. And like when I was younger, it's like you think of 2020 and you think of like the crazy things. You think of like the hover cars and this and that. And
right.
We're still fighting for equality.
Yeah. And what's the discussion like amongst the WNBA players that you've had a chance to discuss these incidents with, and in the entirety, the Black Lives Matter movement? Because so much of the league is African American, and it's a very diverse league. And the WNBA, you guys have always been on the forefront of civil activity and the movement. What have those conversations been like? And in terms of action steps, what are you guys looking to actually implement moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely been on a lot of Zoom calls, really trying to just, be here for ears, to listen, obviously to educate ourselves. I'm white, but to continue to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations with people that are in my community, because a lot of this is on white people to kind of stand up and really be at the forefront of creating social justice and, ending racism once and for all. So, excuse me. But we're just kind of talking about what action are we able to do that's all the teams together, because obviously we're all going to be in this bubble together, and what we're going to be able to do that will make an impact and also be more than just, wearing a t-shirt or what we're going to do this year, but it's something that will continue to happen every year and just help in as many ways as we can. And I was actually on a Zoom call with my team last night, and it's like the biggest ways it seems like to be able to help is funding and educating ourselves. And what's a way that we can do that as a team and then as a league?
Yeah, I think that you set a great example personally in the Seattle Storm as a team and the WNBA as a league. Your actions and your words really resonate, and they've been inspiring, not just now, but through the years. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about basketball. Tell us about your off-season training. And I saw some recent odds, I think, that had you pegged at, I think, 4th, and the Vegas odd makers had you at 11-1 in terms of the MVP. So I'm going to slap some dough down and put it on. I'll take 11-1.
That's okay.
You're going to make me rich.
I'll take that. I obviously coming off an injury,
right?
Rupturing my Achilles last April. Definitely rough and grueling process coming back, but was able to play my first game in January with Team USA at UConn, which was kind of fulfilling and brought things full circle, going back to where I basically continued to make my mark as a basketball player. Was playing a little bit. I went overseas in February, but our season ended in March. So I played maybe 10 games. And now it's just been about making sure I stay ready. The thing is with an Achilles, you don't want it to stiffen. You don't want it to kind of not be ready. And when we were kind of going through our negotiation period, you never knew when we were going to play. So it was just kind of trying to stay ready and do a whole bunch of home workouts like everybody else.
And I love the fact that you mentioned the negotiations. I love the fact that this year that the WNBA is really entering a new era in terms of player salaries. I'm thrilled for you guys. You guys deserve it. You work as hard. You're skilled. You're talented. And I'm glad that finally that the WNBA players are getting a larger share of the revenue. Let's go back to your injury a little bit and the Achilles. God rest his soul in eternity right now. But I was told that you had a chance to speak with Kobe Bryant, who had suffered the same injury. What kind of knowledge or experiences did he share in being able to rehab that injury and get back to where you are now? Yeah,
I mean, I think when I look back, I got injured overseas, and the next day was on a direct flight, Vienna to LA. And when I landed, I had a message from Kobe right away, just saying, hey, checking in. I know it's not easy and it's going to be tough, but you're going to get through it, and I'm here for you. And I don't think anybody can really believe that he's gone, and and the rest of the victims in that helicopter crash. I mean, it's just sad, and there's no way to kind of look at it any other way. But he was someone that was always checking in and making sure that if I needed anything, he was there. He went through the same process as me in the beginning, and he set me up with his surgeon and the people that he used to come back. And just definitely appreciate him always showing love for women's basketball. And Gigi, I mean, when kids are involved, it's 1,000 times worse.
Sure.
And his passing was actually the day before my first game back, which made the game even more emotional.
Wow. Yeah. And I guess you also have had a chance to commiserate a little bit with and collaborate with KD, who suffered his injury in the NBA Finals right along the same time, right? Or yours was before his by a little bit. By a few months.
I was
in April. His was in June, correct?
Yeah, I was eight weeks ahead of him, and I mean, it's just a thing where it's the Achilles. It's you don't wish it on anyone, obviously. Right. When you think of it, you think one of the worst injuries. So to see him kind of go down like that, he reached for his Achilles right away. I think everybody kind of knew that something was wrong, and just reached out to him and was just kind of letting him know what to expect. Like, I just got out of the worst part. Like, the first 8 weeks is the worst part because you're just really immobile. But I reached out to him. I was like, listen, stay on your meds, like stay ahead of the pain, like
Right.
wiggle your toes because they're in the cast for a long time.
Right. Did your calf look like this when you took it out?
Oh my God. It was just one day. It was just one day. I remember I was in my room, like I had my little like elevated pillow thing, and I was looking at my leg, and I'm like, wow, this is disgusting. It's like almost disgusting.
Right.
And another hooper, Kelsey Plum, just went down with an Achilles injury, and the same thing, reaching out to her, showing support and whatever she needs. I mean, I just went through it, and it's tough, but you can definitely get on the other side of it.
What is your explosiveness like now in terms of your fitness? I know there's a mental component and a physical component. Where are you right now in terms of?
I feel great, to be honest. I'm very happy and fortunate that I was able to get at least a handful of games in before the coronavirus really hit the U.S. But my leg feels good. I feel like there's no pain, no swelling, and just continuing to strengthen my calf. My calf is still a little smaller, like less than a half inch from the other one, but to me, that's pretty good. But I tell everyone that, my new Achilles makes me more explosive.
Oh, there you go. Boom. Hey, I love women's basketball, and I've got two daughters who came up through the AAU system, and one's involved with the team, played as a freshman at Loyola Marymount University. The other one is going to be a freshman at San Jose State University. And women's basketball is very dear to my heart. I love the WNBA. I love the collegiate game. I may be one of the few, but you hear a lot of negative talk about youth basketball these days. It's complicated. It's, the Under Armour circuit, the Adidas Nation circuit. It's the Nike EYBL. What do you remember most about your basketball journey coming up through youth basketball, at that first stage of it? And we'll talk about collegiately after that, but tell us about your experience and what was the most indelible experience that you remember.
To be honest, for me, like when I look back at my AAU experience, like when I growing up, the first team I played for was the Syracuse Stars. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York. So like, it was a local AAU team. A lot of my best friends to this day were on that team. And then I kind of came on the EYBL circuit. I played for the Philadelphia Bells. This was before you could play on whatever team you wanted.
Free agency, right?
Yeah, it was free agency. But it was just, it's intense. It's intense with all the national circuits. But I think the biggest thing is just like the memories that I had at the tournaments, being in the rooms with my teammates and hanging out and having fun. And the games are cool and competitive, but those moments with your teammates, that's what I look back and remember, the crazy things we were doing in the hotel room, stuff like that.
Going to Golden Corral and eating at the buffet, right?
Exactly, yeah. Living our best life at the time, yeah.
Hey, yeah, you just didn't know it, right? Your recruitment, who we know who won, but who finished second in the recruitment game to UConn, or was there anyone to speak of, so to say?
Yeah, my I would say second was a tie between Duke and Penn State.
Really?
That was like my final three was UConn, Penn State, and Duke. Penn State, I really enjoyed the coaching staff. The campus is huge. Duke obviously is Duke, but beautiful campus, great program. But I kind of knew. I knew I wanted to go to UConn. I wanted to become the best, and no other way to do that besides play for the best.
What do you remember about your official visit to UConn? Who was your hostess on the trip? Do you remember? Remember what you did that night or weekend?
I went to UConn a few times, but I remember I don't remember if it was my official, but Morgan Tuck and I went together, and we were talking about, are we going to commit? Are we going to do it? And she actually committed on the spot, and I went down and visited Duke, and then I committed the next time. But I remember I was super nervous. I was shy. It was like after a game, and I told Coach Ram, I'm like, I want to come here. And
really?
I was like, I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to say,
Right.
I'm committed to you guys. I don't know. But.
And then the 4 championships to follow at UConn. What is it about? What is it about Coach Auriemma that makes that program so unique and so everlasting, so evergreen, so perpetual and sustained? If you had to put your finger on it.
I think he just, he demands perfection, and he demands something that's impossible, but he gets you to kind of understand what you're fighting for, and obviously to win championships, but also to go beyond that and to kind of prep you for what's coming after UConn. And I think it's the people that they bring in. They know that they're bringing in people that are willing to really work as hard as they can. And even if, in the beginning we get there and we don't know that we're willing to work as hard as we can, right. we figure it out. And I mean, all you have to do is look at all the people that went through that program and kind of where they are today.
Right. And of the 4 championships that you won at UConn, is there one that sticks out more than the other for any particular reason? It's kind of like having 4 kids. You love them all the same. I know you're going to thinking something like that, but is there one that maybe inches ahead of the other?
Yeah, I mean, the last one for sure, because that just really capped off the entire run. And I remember this walking off the court with Morgan and Mariah and kind of hugging Coach Auriemma, and we just, that was just the moment. It was like, well, we did it. And we did what we wanted to do when we came in as freshmen, and now we're leaving as seniors with 4 rings.
Wow, what an experience! And they still got it going there. Have you spoken to Gino recently? Have you had any contact with him? What was that conversation like?
Yeah, I've checked in a little bit during quarantine. I mean, I think we're all just kind of in a state where we were waiting to see what was going to happen. Whether it was him at school or me with the WNBA, but. He's someone that, he also, we keep in touch ever since I left, and, was someone that was definitely in my corner coming back from injury and just telling me not to rush back with things. Basketball's still going to be here whenever I'm ready. And now he's just happy to see me back on the court.
That's awesome. We all are. Let's, one thing we like to do on the Basketball Jones is take our viewers and listeners beyond the 94x50 basketball court and get into a little bit of food, a little culture, music, things a little different. And tell me about your experience in Russia, because it sounds so exotic. I've been to St. Petersburg, and
I'm jealous.
Really fabulous city. Very kind of a lot of Western European overtones. But when you talk about living in Russia for as long as you have for the season, what kind of how much do you pick up the language? Tell us about the food. Tell us about the people a little bit, and what jumps out at you.
Yeah. So to go back a little bit, I actually spent 2 years in China. 2 years I was in Shanghai just to kind of start my overseas career, and then these last 2 years I was in Russia. And Russia is definitely an experience, and it's super cool. I'm jealous. I have not been able to go to St. Petersburg, but going to Moscow, the Red Square, and just really embracing yourself in that culture. And I know some keywords in Russian, know how to kind of figure out what I need. But the 2 cities I've been to, they really are basketball supporters, and they've helped me out immensely. And it's pretty similar to kind of being here. It's just everything's in Russian.
Right. Okay. I get it. And if you ever do get a chance to go to St. Petersburg, beautiful city, lots of canals. You just got to make sure that you don't get stuck on the wrong side of the canal.
But did you go in the summer, or what was the season?
I was there in the middle of the summer. It was like July for the Goodwill Games, and it was like a mini Olympics between the USA and Russia back in the day. And it would be, because it's so far north, Breanna, that at 10:30 at night, it would still be light outside.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm concerned about going there in the wintertime. I'm like, it's cold in Russia, and then it's going to be even colder.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I got hooked on, and it was an expensive deal, was caviar. Did you eat much of it when you were over there?
Mm.
No?
Mm-mm.
It cost a lot less back when I was over there. It's the price of it has gone through the roof, especially the good stuff, beluga. I can't afford it. You probably can.
When I go back, I'll definitely try and become more of a caviar person.
Yeah. And what was China like? I mean, there's so much talk about China these days in the news for various reasons. Their men's basketball league just began resuming play.
Yeah.
And, what was your experience? What did you take away from your experience playing over in China?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was in Shanghai. I was in probably the best city possible. It also was an experience like Russia, a little different, but just kind of really immersing myself in the culture. And at the same time, Shanghai, had the restaurants where it was like, if I want Italian, I can do that. If I want steakhouse, I can do that. But definitely a fast-paced lifestyle, a lot of people, a lot going on. A little different on the basketball court, because when you're in China, you can only have one foreigner. So I was the only one on the team.
Oh, wow.
Whereas in Russia, you can have two, and then you can have European players, and the rule kind of can get stretched a little.
Right.
But I definitely won't forget, my beginning years in China, and appreciate the club for having me.
Yeah. Which league had easier travel between the two, China or Russia, and for what reason?
Russia. I mean, in Russia for sure. The team that I'm on right now, they have their own plane. So when you have your own plane, it makes things very nice. But in China, we did the fast train a lot, which was a cool experience.
Wow.
If we were going to have the Olympics this summer, they were saying we would have the fast train to kind of move around.
Right.
So that would have been something that was super cool. But yeah, the travel in Russia is a little easier just because you can charter.
Sure. Especially if you guys own it. Let's come back stateside and talk about Seattle. Favorite places to eat in Seattle. Give me your top 3 spots. If I'm coming out there for a weekend to visit a couple of friends, where do I need to be? Where do I need to go?
So my top 3
before this is going to be after I go to Green Lake Park and ball out on some of those guys. Okay.
My top 3. So I'm gonna give you my top 3 in Belltown.
Okay.
Rocco's Pizza. That's like, that's it. Umi Sushi.
Umi
is another spot. And then a spot that's in the market, the Pink Door. Definitely good food. I just gave you 3 pretty different options. So
right.
Pink Door is
El
more Italian, I think.
Yeah. El Gaucho's come up in there somewhere.
El Gaucho's, yep, it's down the street a little bit. If you want more of a fancy spot,
right?
Date night. That's definitely.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones would be liking that a little bit. We get her in the mix a little bit. Hey, tell us. When I always like asking this question, when you hit play on your playlist right now, what song comes up?
If I was to hit play on my playlist right now,
you can even hit your phone. You can look at your phone.
I'm like, let me
Apple Music or whatever it is, and hit your playlist. What is it? Is it Drake? Is it me? Win. Okay, that's
Win by J-Rock. That's funny.
All right. Is that your walk-up song? Is that your hype song?
Actually, I think in 2018, in Seattle, it definitely was a song that we played all the time. I was gonna say Drake's newest album.
Oh, okay.
But Win works too.
I feel you. Hey, your teammate Sue is going to be hosting the ESPYs coming up. Have you spoken to her about it?
I
what are you
haven't
expecting
asked
from her?
any questions.
That's a big deal, man.
I'm actually like super interested how it's all going to go down. Like, is it going to be in their living room, or what's the situation?
Right.
And I think, like, I'm not saying one side versus another, but I think it sounds a little harder to do it virtually than in person.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. You plan on dropping by during the ESPYs?
Yeah, maybe I'm just I'm gonna walk in, mask on, obviously.
During this this stay-at-home order time, you guys are still, I guess, in Seattle, short of phase 2. What kind of special talents or interests have you picked up, or are there any things that you've been able to actually get around to doing that you've always wanted to?
I really organized my house. Like, I guess this is the most amount of time that I've been here consecutively, probably since I got the place. So just making sure that I like where everything is, and cleaning, and being kind of OCD in a sense.
Okay.
And then just working out. I've been working out and just hanging out with my dog. Nothing super crazy, to be honest.
Okay. All right. What's your daily schedule like in terms of workouts? Where do you get your run in these days? I mean, if you guys are on phase 1.5, how tough is it getting to gyms? And can you get some shots up?
So they just told us last week that we could start going to our practice facility, but it's like you can have one person with you, one ball, like can't get too exotic, I guess.
Right.
So it's a start, but it's still, like, to ramp up for a season, things need to move a little bit faster. I know we will have training camp in the bubble, which is nice to give us a little bit more time. But for female basketball players, we don't usually have this downtime. We're usually like overseas, WNBA, back overseas, WNBA. And now it's kind of like, whoa, now we're here. And what do we do? So I've been doing home workouts. I got a Peloton.
Good move.
A little addicted to my Peloton for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You got favorite instructors and all that too now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I went the other way. I got a Versa climber. I punished myself on that for 20, 30 minutes a day. Yeah.
Yeah. That and the Airdyne bike. The Airdyne bike is no joke.
Okay.
Those were like my two, like, rehab besties.
Nice. Well, it's funny. I'm thinking about you working out. Have you worked out with Coach Klopp recently?
No, he's not in Seattle right now, but
he's not. Okay.
Soon we will.
It's a small world because his daughter is an assistant coach at San Jose State, where my daughter will be a freshman next year. So
super small world. That's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Breanna Stewart, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the basketball court at IMG Academy in a little less than a month, and I can't tell you how glad I am, happy, not just me, but the entire Jones family is to see you back on the basketball court. We got a lot of love for you, and going to be praying for your success this year, individually and as a team, and really keep up the great work on the social movement front, because your voice matters. It resonates as an ally to the movement. It is a diverse movement. It's a Black Lives Matter movement, but in its entirety, it really is about everybody striving towards justice. So I'm going to pray for you to have great energy in that as well. Thanks again for joining us on the Basketball Jones.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll be watching that. Don't forget that the Basketball Jones comes to you every week. And on Mondays, we have Pickup Game featuring Coach Seth Greenberg. Had some great guests this past week, including Frank Martin and Dave Yeager. And coming up tomorrow, it'll be Bo Estes as part of our sports business classroom right here on www.hallpassnetwork.com/web-shows. I'm Mark Jones. Thanks again for joining us this week. Thanks for watching the Basketball Jones. We'll see you next week.